Hey guys, welcome back to the Bible study. Today we're going to continue on in the Gospel of Luke. We're still in chapter 6. And today I'm going to read just a shorter passage because I don't want to get too far and jump into the Sermon on the Mount. So the Sermon on the Mount is coming up. Maybe in the next video we'll jump into that. But today, let's read about a couple of cool things. Some prayers that Jesus does, some healings that Jesus does, and share a few thoughts on that. So let's jump in on verse 12 of chapter 6, Gospel of Luke. Here we go. So it says It was at this time that Jesus, went off to the mountain to pray. And he spent the whole night in prayer to God. And when day came, he called his disciples to him, and he chose 12 of them, whom he also named as apostles. Simon, whom he also named Peter, and Andrew, his brother, and James and John, and Philip and Bartholomew, and Matthew and Thomas, James the son of Alphaeus, and Simon, who was also called the Zealot, Judas the son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor. Jesus came down with them, and he stood on a level place, and there was a large crowd of his disciples and a great throng of people from all Judea and Jerusalem and the coastal region of Tyre and Sidon, who had come to hear him and to be healed of their diseases, and those who were troubled with unclean spirits were being cured. And all the people were trying to touch him, for power was coming from him and healing them all. So let's leave it right there. The next verse jumps into the Sermon on the Mount, which is going to be really epic and fun to go through, but we'll have to reserve that for the next one. For now, let's comment on a couple of these verses here because there's some cool stuff going on. Back to verse 12 where we started, I just want to say this is a really inspiring verse. It says, "It was at this time that he, Jesus, went off to the mountain to pray, and he spent the whole night in prayer to God." I just think that's super cool. I think if I try to remember back across my whole life, I don't think I've ever spent like an entire night praying. Have you? Let me ask. Consider your own life. Have you ever spent a whole night, not get a wink of sleep, just stay up and pray? And he's not like in some prayer meeting with a whole bunch of other people that can kind of pray and fill time and help keep him awake. And it's not like there's, when you get the munchies, you can go to the fridge and open it up and get a few snacks and he's on a mountaintop. He's alone as far as we can tell. And he's praying all night long. I just think, wow, I think for us that seems really hard because prayer is hard. I'll admit it's hard work. It takes discipline. It takes, time. It takes, an intentional effort to make time to do it. But the more you do it, the more you want to do it. And the more you want to keep going back to God and sharing your innermost thoughts and needs and communing with him, fellowshipping with him. It's not just like a laundry list of requests, but it's like getting to be with God, to both talk to him and listen to him. I think that for me, the more that I pray, the more that I want to pray. And I'm not there yet where I could just any old time spend a night in prayer, but I am getting to the point where, I feel like prayer isn't just a discipline, like something I should do. It's something I want to do. It's something that every time I do, I never regret, and I'm always built up and encouraged, and then answers to those prayers start to come in, and it starts to reinforce your faith and strengthen it, and great things come about through prayer. I think it would be wonderful for all of us to take Jesus' example here and commit our decisions to prayer, to especially the big ones. Like he's got to choose these 12 disciples that he's going to pour his time into. Out of all the people that he could choose, he's got to pick 12. And I think that's why he on this occasion, spent so much time in prayer. He knew that he needed to be sure what the Father wanted him to do, exactly who those 12 people should have been. So I think when we have heavy decisions weighing on us, it's tempting to just think about it. It's tempting to just chew on it and churn over it in your head and try to work out a solution and try to figure it out yourself. Like, it's like almost like the joy of solving a puzzle. We think we're smart enough that we can just solve the puzzle. If we spend enough time, tinkering with the Rubik's Cube, we'll finally get it, but Jesus, was humble enough to know that he just needed to go straight to the Father. He needed to spend all night in prayer. If Jesus had to do that, you guys, if Jesus had to do that, I need to do that. You need to do that. So I exhort you guys today and challenge you, make time to pray, especially when you have a big decision to make. I had something that was really on my mind heavy about a year or so ago, and I just remember this distinctly. I went to church and I went to a prayer meeting. I was talking to a friend, and I was saying, man, I just keep thinking about this. I keep thinking about this, and he's like, well, have you prayed about it? And I kind of sat back and I thought, no, I just think about it all the time. I'm never actually praying about it. I never ask God what he thinks I should do. I just always keep wondering what I think I should do. So I'm just confessing that as that's my story, my frailty. I'm not praying as much as Jesus did, and yet Jesus' example spurs me on to pray more. I hope it spurs you on to pray more. And so if you've got a big decision to make today, don't think about it. Pray about it. Maybe a night of prayer wouldn't hurt either. And maybe it won't be so hard to stay awake as you might imagine, because you might start praying and then just enjoy the presence of God so much that time flies and you have a great time. And hopefully you come down from that mountain and you're ready to get to work. Let's jump into those next few verses. After Jesus handpicks these 12 guys, he also goes on to do this powerful, ministry. And I think that's also instructive to us. If we want to have powerful ministries where God works through us to do great things in people's lives, we need to be tapped into the power source, we need to be praying a lot, because Jesus spent the whole night with God, and then he comes down and now he's with people, but because he's been soaking in God, saturated with God, plugged in, connected, his batteries are all recharged, he gets down there where the people need something and he has something to offer them. And it's no small thing. Look at all this. You've got people that are coming who want to hear him speak. They want to be healed of their diseases. They're troubled with unclean spirits and they want to be cured of that. They're all trying to touch him because there's power coming out of him, and that power is getting everybody healed. Everybody. If you read this passage, it's there's nobody who doesn't get healed. Everybody gets healed. And it's man, if I want to have an effective ministry where every person I encounter can be blessed, not because of me, but because of God, that they can have an encounter with God, they could be touched by God because God is working through me the way he works through Christians and through his son. It's the way Jesus did it. He models it for us. He spends all night with God. It would be for us, we would tend to naturally think, well, if you got a big day tomorrow, if you're going to have throngs of people coming to you for help, you might want to get a good night's sleep. That's such a naturalist way to think about it. But Jesus is I've got a big day tomorrow. I have to choose the 12 disciples that I'm going to pour my life into. And I know one of them is going to betray me, and yet I'm going to pour my life into them too. And then I've got a whole crowd of people that are going to want to be taught and healed and delivered from demons. I've got to go pray. I need to go pray. I need to go pray now. That's, and I need to pray all night. Jesus is awesome, you guys. If you haven't figured that one out, I'm sorry. I hope that you know how awesome Jesus is and how we are meant to be instructed by his example, not just to be oh wow, Jesus was so awesome, I could never do that. No, he died so that he could put his Spirit in you so that you could do stuff like that, so that you could spend all night in prayer and fellowship with God and then go down a mountain and among all the people and bless everybody you meet. Everybody. Like, as the power of God flows through your life. You know, it's not just, I don't know, a cute story. This really happened, and Jesus wants to put his Spirit in us so that we can be a blessing to others and we can have fellowship with God. It's very exciting, you guys. So I hope that this lesson, just these few verses, encourages you and stirs in you a desire for prayer and helps you see your need for prayer. Helps you see that if our Lord Jesus needed to pray, we need to pray. Okay, so that's all I'm trying to get across. And what could the outcome be of your prayer? Who even knows? Like, amazing outcomes came out of this night of prayer. And then Jesus jumps into this amazing sermon. And we'll read all about that next. So, you know, not only did he heal all these people and pick the 12, but he also preaches like a sermon that knocks it out of the park, the sermon of all sermons. So we're going to get into that next time. I hope you're excited. I hope you have a great night. Be blessed. We'll see ya. Bye.